Hello everybody, this is City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me today for Scraptember and Christy's Beautiful Life 30 Days of Sketches Series 8, all rolled into one. So each day there will be a prompt from the Scraptember challenge, and there will also be a sketch from the Christy's Beautiful Life 30 Days of Sketches challenge. There will be quite a few YouTubing scrapbookers following along with this challenge, so please take a look in the description box each day to see who's following along and who has a video ready for you to watch. Each day I'm going to be using the sketch from 30 Days of Sketches, and most days I'm going to be following along with the Scraptember prompt, and although I don't follow along with that prompt every single day, I will let you know what it is, so you can create a layout. I'll put the link to the Facebook group in the description box so that you can see the sketch each day and the Scraptember prompt every day. You can post your layouts and you can see other layouts, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. The sketch for day one is a beautiful sketch by Whitaker. If you're not familiar with Whitaker, she creates fantastic sketches, and I was really happy to see that one of her sketches was Christy's pick for day one. For this layout, I'm using an older K & Company collection. It was made, or designed, I should say, by Brenda Walton, and it's called Peppermint Twist. I love using this collection. I love the pink and the mint green in the collection, but it also has the traditional Christmas colors, the green and the red, and this has been one of my go-to collections for Christmas, but I've used up quite a bit of it, so I have to be careful not to waste any of it. You see here that I assembled a large banner and I put some other pattern papers behind the banner, and I used a border punch to punch out a large scallop for underneath the photos. You can see that the sketch calls for 3 photos, but I'm only going to use 2. My photos seem to be quite a bit larger than the ones that are in the sketch, and I didn't want to cut off anything that I thought was important. I wanted to make sure that I included the area where my daughter is working so you could see that she's making gingerbread cookies. And here's a third photo, but I just felt that it was just too much for the layout. I did mount it and I did try putting it on the layout, but it just seemed like it was a little bit too big. So I'll take that off in a minute. I'm also mounting my photos on this beautiful paper. I hated to cut into this paper. It's so pretty. So I liked the image on the top of the Santa with the reindeer, so I used paper from the bottom of the page just in case I ever want to use that top part of the page. I backed that third photo because I really wanted to include that picture on the layout. I like the idea of including the cookie cutters that she used to make the gingerbread men, but I finally had to accept that it was just too much. So that's okay. I have other photos from this event that I can scrapbook, and then I can include that smaller photo on another layout. Here I'm using some adhesive foam and I'm popping up one of the photos. I'm just using some scraps that I had from another project, and I'm not going to pop up both photos. I just want to pop up that one on the right side. Here I'm using my ATG gun to attach the photos down to the banner. Sometimes I have a little bit of trouble getting the ATG adhesive on the fun foam, but this time it worked out fine. Now all the major elements of the layout are in place, and I want to figure out which embellishments would look best. And I'm going to follow along with the sketch and create 3 different clusters on the layout. The off-white poinsettias I ordered from the Spellbinders website. Unfortunately, I don't know the manufacturer of the red poinsettias. The little gingerbread men, those are from a pack you could see off to the right. They're called Holiday Trends. It's not like a regular scrapbooking brand, but I believe that my sister got those for me for a Secret Santa, and she got them in AC Moore, which is no longer in business, but I really love those little gingerbread men. I love their little smiles. They're super cute, and they match perfectly with the theme of the layout, and I actually loved themed scrapbooking. I know some people don't really like that. I absolutely love it. So when I'm doing a gingerbread layout, I can't wait to find all of my gingerbread embellishments and see which ones I can get on the page. The holly leaves that I have one in the corner of each photo, those are Jolee's Boutique. And now I wanted to include this little title that says Joy. This is from a chipboard set that matches the paper collection. And it's funny because usually I am trimming the white border off of embellishments. In this case, I wanted to add a white border just so that the title doesn't blend in with the background. And at times it was a little bit tricky to cut around the piece of chipboard and get into all the very small areas. But in the end, I was able to get the scissors into those tiny spots and make a border for the title. And I know that I could have made a title that was a little bit more specific to what my daughter was doing, but I just thought, and I couldn't think of anything that was really a fantastic title. So I decided that Joy fit the Christmas spirit, and that was fine for the title. Titles aren't really my thing, but I do try to put a little bit of extra effort because they don't really come naturally to me on most layouts. But for this one, I just decided to go with the chipboard piece that I had. Now I'm making a border. I took an old sheet of paper that I knew I wouldn't use and some strips of paper. I did not have enough of this paper to gut it, so this is something that I do often. I'll take some strips of paper and just make a little frame around the outside of a piece of paper, and then I'll layer whatever other papers that I'm using on top of it so that there'll be a border. A few moments ago, I showed how I will fold the corner of the strip down, and that creates a fold that's on a 45-degree angle. I cut along that fold on both sides of the strip, and then I'll use the first strip that I made as a template for the second strip. And that's just a quick way of making a background or a border for your background. Now this large triangle, I'm not actually going to attach this down to the layout. This is just being used to trace so that I know where to put stitching. On the sketch, you could see that there's stitching in the background, so I wanted to do the same thing. So I'm using this little punchy tool and a ruler, and I'm punching every 1/2 centimeter, and I continue and I punch around all 3 of those triangles. Now I'm not going to show you how I sew this entire thing, but I just wanted to show you that I erased all of the pencil lines using this eraser that kind of looks like a pen, but this is a great eraser because it doesn't smudge the pencil marks. And now I'm going to be using red, pink, and green for the 3 triangles. Just in case you're not familiar with a back stitch, I'm going to do a very quick demonstration. I come in through the back on the second hole, and then I go into the first hole through the front. Then I go around the back to the third hole, I come back up, and then I put my needle back into the second hole. And then that process is repeated over and over again until you have all the stitching that you would like. And I'm sure there are other videos on YouTube if you would like a further explanation, but I just wanted you to be familiar with what a back stitch was if you weren't already. So now all the stitching is done, and I am attaching the white paper down to that border that I made earlier. And now I'm going to attach my large cluster down to the background. I could have measured and planned where I wouldn't have to stitch because the cluster would cover the triangles, but I didn't do that, but it's okay. I'm okay with that. I decided to remove those little holly pieces. I decided I just didn't like the way that they looked. And I have some glue out, and I'm attaching down the poinsettias, and I'm again layering the little gingerbread man into the poinsettias. Once I'm done with those 2 clusters, I start working on the cluster in the upper right-hand corner. I have the pink and the red banner that I'm going to attach down, again with the ATG adhesive. And then I'm going to be layering a gingerbread man and a poinsettia up there as well. Then I got a little distracted because I wanted to put some photo corners on the photos. So I'm using this EK Success Photo Corner Punch. This is a scalloped punch. And I punch out a checkered photo corner and a red photo corner, and I'm layering the checkered one on top of the red one. The red one just helps to create a little bit of a contrast, and it separates the photo corner that's red and checkered from the photo. So I have a big bag of pine needles that I keep ready for my Christmas projects. So I'm pulling out a few of those pine needles and I'm layering them around the poinsettias. So I have some dark green ones and I have some that lighter green that's on the banner. And I like the way it looks when different colors of pine needles get layered together. I also had this blue color that was very similar to the color that was in the pattern paper. It's almost like a Tiffany blue. And I had some pink, but I decided that would be a little bit too much. So now I'm taking those Jolee's holly pieces and instead of putting them in the corners, I'm just attaching them down in the clusters. So of course I had to add one more because there's 3 clusters. And I'm happy with that. I like the little bit of sparkle that adds to the clusters. Here I'm adding an enamel dot to each of the banners. I add a bigger one on the bottom on the big banner and a little bit smaller one on the top banner. And now I'm going back to my Christmas stash and I'm pulling out a few little elements. I found those little tiny poinsettias and a rolling pin and a little spoon. And I decided that the poinsettias would be perfect in the corners of the photos. They were so tiny and just the perfect size for that. And then I wanted to include some of these cooking utensils like the rolling pin and the spoon, so I thought that was a good addition. And here I'm just arranging those pine needles and I'm going to be attaching everything down with the glue. And so far I feel happy with the composition and I really like the addition of the pine needles, but there's something about the layout that's bothering me and I haven't figured out what it is yet. So I just carry on. I'm clipping some of the pine needles back a little bit and you can see that I'm arranging them. Sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to get them just the way that I want them. And then once I figure out how I want to arrange them, I glue them down quickly so that they stay put. On the top left cluster, I move the little Jolee sticker around to the other side where I felt there was a little gap. I write the date on the banner. And now I'm adding a little pearl to the center of each of those tiny poinsettias. And then I decided to relocate the Jolee's boutique sticker on the top cluster as well. Now I'm adding some sequins. I wanted to add a little something to the background and I thought sequins would look a little bit more festive than enamel dots. So I chose some sequins from my stash. I don't have too many fancy sequin mixes, so these are just some standard sequins that I've collected along the way. I find I'm starting to use sequins more often on my layouts. So I'm using this tool. It's a We Are Memory Keepers tool. It has a sticky side, and I think the other side is a pointed side. And it's great for picking up the sequins and placing them on your layout. As you could see, I can't resist just picking them up with my fingers and sticking them down, even though I think it's easier to use the tool. I then glue them down, and this is not the best glue to use for sequins. My understanding is Glossy Accents is a better adhesive. I had to glue them down, then I had to glue them down again, so I would definitely recommend using something like Glossy Accents because this gel glue works on pretty much everything, but not as well on sequins. And I continue around the page until all the sequins are glued down. Then I left the layout out for a few days and I finally realized what was bothering me about this layout. I just didn't like those off-white poinsettias. I felt that that color clashed with the white background, so I decided that I would peel them up as carefully as I could. And there was some damage, but I was able to repair the one that got damaged and I will be able to use them on other layouts. But once I put the roses down, I felt that the whole layout looked brighter and crisper and I was much more happy with it. So I'm glad that I finally figured that out. And those roses were the very last touch on the layout and now it is complete. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Don't forget to check out all of the other scrapbookers who are following along with Christy's Beautiful Life, 30 Days of Sketches. The links to their channels and videos will be in the description box. I hope that everybody has a fantastic day, and I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.